Welcome to the Suicide Prevention Show here on 1360 WLBK, a show that tries to shed a little light on the darkness of suicide. Kind of running with the skeletal crew today, just myself, T.D. Ryan, and Citizen Mike. How you doing, Mike?
Great. It's a little bit cool, but I can live with it.
But what we lack in quantity, we make up in quality, as I say, because we also have a very special guest in the studio with us today. Who do we have with us, Citizen
Today
Mike?
we have David Samuelson. He comes with us via NAMI DuPage. You know, we were able to hook up with the Speakers Bureau there, and they have been able to provide us some fantastic guests on our show. David is here to talk about his story of recovery.
And let us remind the folks what, and it's now, is it NAMI or NAMI?
It's tomato, but
Okay,
I
but
think
it's NAMI, which stands for?
National Alliance on Mental Illness.
Are we right with that, David?
National Alliance for the Mentally Ill.
Okay, so we're
They
right there.
changed the name, that for to on, and it's whatever.
Okay, but we want to.
And I'm not the person to be asking that because whatever. But that's okay.
All right, but very good. But David is here
Yes.
to regale us with what?
He's going to talk about his story of recovery. And so, David, tell us a little bit about yourself and begin where you'd like to begin.
Okay. My name is David Samuelson. I have been diagnosed as a bipolar person. I have had symptoms since I have been 6 years old, as far as I can remember. Stepping back a little bit, I've had many professional jobs in my life. I've been a comptroller, I've been a computer programmer, I'm a CPA, I've run grocery stores, I've had a franchise of a used CD store. But at this point in time, I found what I love to do, and that is working with the public. And that has helped to facilitate my recovery. That's a little bit about me. And I don't know, Citizen Mike, where do you want to start?
Well, let's start with the symptoms. And however, that's the other thing you're bringing up here is you were diagnosed with this when you were 6 years old, or the symptoms occurred back then?
The symptoms I started having depressions back when I was 6 years old. Depressions, not major manic swings. They were minor manic swings in those days. But it was definitely depressions.
Do you remember what that looked like or felt like as a child? I mean, I don't know that I could answer the question myself if I was trying to think back to when I was 6 years
tough
old.
to go back that far.
That might not be possible, but
Well, I mean, the floor falls out from under you. I mean, you just everything is hopeless, and people say bad things about you, and then you just start crying. I mean, it's a terrible world. My sister hit me, and people made fun of me, and I just reacted to everything.
okay.
So what was your coping mechanism then? Did you just go off by yourself, or what was your method of survival at that point?
You know, sometimes you just have to go through it, live through it. I mean, there was really, I mean, at that point in time, I really hadn't discovered anything. It wasn't until I was 12 years old that I found the pen and paper, and that's when I wrote my first poem, and which will show you a little bit about, even at that age, how well I understood what I was going through. Why do people get depressed? There are many reasons nonetheless. Some people lose confidence in themselves. Others lose confidence in what they've done. Still others lose confidence in their futures. These are all the uncertainties of life. What will happen, has happened, and is happening. But the most important thing to know is the knowledge that life goes on no matter what. Sure, life has its ups and downs, but you can't enjoy the good times if you want to end it all when things go bad. So take a tip from someone who knows. Enjoy the good life while it's here, and when depression starts to reappear, just go out and drink a nice cold beer.
You were 12 when you wrote this?
I was 12 years old.
Yeah, I mean, for me, how profound the command of language and understanding to hit the piece in terms of confidence. But then also a 12-year-old saying, drink a beer. Where did that come from?
Well, that came from watching my father.
Okay.
He used to come home and have a beer or a martini and grump out on all of us. I think that he suffered from the mood disorder also. It was not, as I discovered very soon, it was not a very good way to handle the situation.
And David, when you wrote that first poem, what was your feelings after? Did you know that this was the answer? Were you able to? Was it a catharsis type feeling when you wrote that first poem?
Definitely. I mean, I always accepted the fact that I was different, and putting that down on paper was a way of saying, okay, here I am. That's me. When I was 15 years old, I was looking through the dictionary. Well, that's a fun thing to do. But
At 15?
At 15.
Goodness.
I came upon the word manic depression, and I read the definition, and I said, that's what I am. I'm a manic depressive. And I yelled up to my mother. I said, Mom, I finally found out what I am. I'm a manic depressive. And she yelled down, no, you're crazy.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
Wow.
Because
I know,
part
a
of
matter of semantics, but that's amazing. Isn't that she would yell that down to you?
it is a matter of semantics, but also the other thing that we frequently hear parents say, or parents being told, is that this is a phase your child is going to grow out of.
And when David was talking about being depressed, I think many of us, I was the youngest in our family, and I know I got beat up by my siblings on occasion, and I felt not a hopeless feeling, though. I don't think it ever reached a level that you described.
I wrote another poem which kind of describes how I feel when I get into a depression. This was written about 3 years ago. So let me read that one to you, and this one pretty much describes what it's like. Not a happy poem. Life is a live wire, burning in hell's fire, reacting to everything, never knowing what's below. The searing pain of reality, trusting humans, such a mistake. Spine-tingling anguish, freezing winds of the tundra, left alone in the path of the storm.
Wow. That's pretty
Boy,
amazing.
That really is. Now, you were how old when you wrote that one?
Well, this one was
that was
3 years.
just 3
This
years
was
ago.
3 years
Okay.
ago.
Now, is that by you going back, remembering how it was?
Yeah, because I can't write when I'm in a depression.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. Okay.
Yeah, no, this is when I'm feeling okay, and at that time. I mean, I've been writing since I was 12 years old. I've been writing short stories and poems and little dissertations and things, and since I didn't get the emotional support that I needed from my family, it was a way that I had the pencil and the paper were a way to get my thoughts out of my head. And it was really important for me.
And it's ironic that your depression would actually, I don't want to say cause your creativity, but allowed you to be creative in that sense.
Well, I think that people with mood disorders a lot of times are very creative people. I've been in plays all of my life. I've been in choirs, and it's a way of expressing. One thing that I feel about people with mood disorders, the verb sensitive, I take it to a noun. That people with mood disorders are sensitives. That they react more to things that are going outside their body or inside their body than other people do.
I'm glad to hear you say that, because in the mental health work that I do, working with people that are bipolar, that's one of the ways that I begin to understand them, that they are the Michael Jordans of emotion. So they have a tendency to be able to experience feelings and that sort of feelings and emotion with greater intensity than most people do. And then goodness gracious, like you're saying about 3 years ago, even so that it's so intense that it's actually painful at times. So take us back at 12 and bring us forward, and because it doesn't sound to me like you had formal treatment at 12, but you learned at that particular stage that you can write, and writing was very helpful to you. Bring us forward.
Okay. Tried a little bit of therapy when I was 15 years old, which didn't really go anywhere. Then I went to college, and I found a way to divert the depressions, and that was by smoking pot. I found that by smoking pot, I could divert the depressions, but at the same time, it caused manias, which is the other side of the coin, which is a feeling that you never want to give up. It's just an unbelievable feeling of elation. You know everything. Nobody can tell you anything. Money is in your pocket even though it's not in your pocket. But the higher that you go, the further that you fall. and when you fall, that's when you think about killing yourself, and you start the cycle back over again. You want to smoke some more pot to bring yourself back up. During my senior year of college, or actually before my senior year of college, I had a manic summer where I met my first wife, and we married at the end of the summer, and we moved into an apartment together here in DeKalb, where I went to school, and well, that was a very up and down year with her. After I graduated, just barely, in accounting, which is something I didn't really want to get into, but my parents wanted me to make money. That was the important thing for them, was to make money. I wanted to be a math teacher, and they said there's no money in math, so I ended up in accounting.
Dave, I have to ask you, when you use the term manic, for our listeners that don't understand, I think a lot of people associate manic with manic depression, of being very depressed, but yet you describe it as almost a euphoric type feeling. Would that only last then when you were smoking the marijuana, that it actually...
Oh, no, that's the pot was the catalyst.
Okay.
Okay. The mania would last for as long as it could last a good 2-3 months.
Oh, okay. Wow. And this mania is, you're feeling, as you said, you're feeling good. You know everything. Your life is fine. Everything is pretty blissful.
Oh, and your thinking processes are so crisp and clear, and ideas are coming, and you're speaking quickly, and people are thinking that you are the life of the party. I found that when I was young, I couldn't do sports at all. When I was in my manias, I was good in sports. I could accomplish anything, but at the same time, you get yourself in trouble at the same time.
Now, when you say that the mania you're saying was triggered by the marijuana use, and we've seen that also in some antidepressants and other medications can trigger a mania for someone diagnosed with bipolar disorder. But did that happen right away, or did it once you first started using, or did it take a while for the manic episodes to come on?
Well, initially it was just getting yourself out of the depression. It's like a slow build. And once you start feeling good, you want to feel better, and pretty soon you don't really need the pot to feel better. You're already feeling better, and it unfortunately, because of the fact that I had the illness, the pot affects me in that way.
And so then you went to college, and it sounds here, too, that you were not formally diagnosed at this time. So you went to college, you had these up times during one of your manic episodes over a summer, you got married, had a tumultuous relationship. What happened after that?
Okay. I graduated from college. I took a job that didn't fit me because accounting didn't fit me. And I went into a depression, and I was hospitalized for the first time for suicidal depression. I was hospitalized for like 2 or 3 weeks. I was let out of the hospital about 2 to 3 months later after a binge with alcohol and pot. I was admitted into the same hospital with the diagnosis of being psychotic. I was put in restraints overnight. The next morning, they let me out of the restraints, and they gave me a pill and said, "Here, take this pill. You'll feel much better." I tongued the pill because I'd seen One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Very good.
I wasn't gonna go with that. So 2 hours later, they came to me and they said, "Oh, you seem like you're doing better now." And I said, "Yeah, and I tongued your pill too." So they let me out. But at that point is when I started looking for a doctor to treat my manic depression.
And you know what? I hate to do this, David, but we have to take a break. Let's leave right now. At that point, we're talking with David Samuelson. We're talking about his road to recovery, and I got the basis of his life. We're going to get the follow-up on that coming back after the break. Dave, we want to, of course, remind people to go to our website, 1360WLBK.com. They'll click on something that looks like a stop sign. What happens then, Citizen Mike?
They'll come to another page where they have an opportunity to download shows that we've have archived there. And so you can listen to shows that we have archived on the internet. You can also email us and give us some feedback about this show. Tell us who you want us to interview. do, what you would like us to cover, that sort of thing, so that we can improve the show that we're producing here.
And we'll be back with more of the Suicide Prevention Show here on 1360 WLBK right after this.
Every minute, someone in the United States attempts suicide.
Tragically, every 18 minutes, someone succeeds. 90% of people who kill themselves suffer from a mental illness.
It doesn't have to be that way. There is hope. There is the National Alliance on Mental Illness.
NAMI affiliates nationwide help individuals and families touched by mental illness.
Call 1-800-346-4572 or visit our website at il.nami.org.
You are not alone.
Welcome back to the Suicide Prevention Show here on 1360 WLBK, a show that tries to shed a little light on the darkness of suicide. With us is always Citizen Mike, and we're visiting with David Samuelson. And David, you were telling us about your troubles really since the age of 6 years old, all the way through your college years. You got married during the summer before your graduation. You graduated from college, and then we learned from you that you actually seeked out help rather than somebody saying you possibly need help. It was you, David, who made that call. And how did that come about, if we could ask you?
Well, I just look back on my own diagnosis at age 15, when I saw that in the dictionary, and I never gave up on that. And, everything, you go into a hospital and they're diagnosing you as suicidally depressed. And then you go into the same hospital and they're diagnosing you as being psychotic. Well, 1 and 1 makes 2. And nobody else was going to go out and get me some help.
Well, that's fabulous. So you had a sense then at age 15, clearly, and probably actually before, you were talking about the poem you wrote at age 12, and you had a sense that you needed to get some help. And so you, after this hospitalization, you sought your own psychiatrist. What was that like?
As I mentioned before, the emotional help, of having a family or our parents that would say to you, well, okay, let's work on this together. They were willing to throw money at the situation, and so then I was able to go out and look for a doctor that could actually put me on lithium to help me with my medication, or to help me with the illness. In 1978, after being put on a sedative while he was on vacation, that sedative put me into a manic episode. And at that time, you needed to be in a manic episode in order to be put on lithium. I was put into a hospital. Lithium was in its infancy at that point. I had blood taken every morning because they were still using me as almost like a guinea pig. But at the end of that hospital stay, I just had a feeling of peace over me that I'd never had before. A feeling of, feeling like I had more control over myself than I ever had before.
And so it sounds like this was a very helpful experience for you, but it also sounds like this was probably your third hospitalization, and that you had found a psychiatrist to work with after your second one. The medication they were using wasn't working, actually triggered another manic episode. And then based on having that manic episode, and at that time in the late 70s, they were beginning to use lithium, and you found that was really working for you.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, can you define lithium for, I don't know, and for folks that don't know at home, what is that a antidepressant? What is lithium?
Lithium is a mood stabilizer.
Okay.
It's basically just a salt that they found works to stabilize people in those states.
Okay, very good.
Fabulous. And so you found that lithium was working for you. It seems also, too, that you had a great deal of insight. I mean, from 12 on about what was going on for you. You understood that lithium was working for you. What happened after that?
When I got out of the hospital, it was January the 13th of 1979. That is now a second birthday for me.
Wow.
I celebrate that every year because of the way that it all came about and the way I felt. After that, actually, it was 78. But anyway, I went out at that point. I was still a very insecure person. Even though I had stabilized as far as my illness was concerned, I had all of these patterns and things going on in my life that made me extremely insecure about things that were happening. And I went looking basically for a relationship. I found a relationship with 2 children that were already there. I found a family, and we fit together. The thing, though, that I was doing during that period of time, though, I was still self-medicating. I was still self-medicating with pot because I found that the lithium left me still a lot lower than what I felt like I needed to be. So I did a maintenance dosage as such of pot to bring me up. I smoked maybe once or twice a week, and then I let that go for a week, and then I would bring myself back up again because as I found out later on during my In Our Own Voice, which is the platform that I speak for in NAMI, that lithium does do that for you. And a lot of times people with taking lithium need an antidepressant because it does leave you a little bit lower. Not knowing that at the time, I did what I felt was necessary. I continued through that period of time, about 7-8 years. Things worked out well. I didn't necessarily marry the right woman, but the children were just in love with me. I was in love with them. I still had not exactly found the right situation for me. I had started working for my father in the meatpacking plant. I started programming computers for him, being a supervisor there, where lo and behold, he sold the business out from under me and me along with it.
Wow.
And I went into my first depression in 8 years. And at the same time, I decided to quit pot cold turkey. I said, hey, this is it. I'm going to just try to go straight here. And that's basically what caused that first major depression, was me quitting pot cold turkey.
Now, did that happen before or after your father sold the company out from under you?
During the point in time when he sold the company, I felt more and more depressed, so I was smoking more and more pot, which was causing some manic things to happen.
Okay.
And that facilitated me being let go of the company that I was being sold to. So at that point, I found another job as a comptroller, and I said, okay, let's get rid of the pot. The pot's causing me more trouble than it's worth, and I just dove down into a terrible depression.
Wow. And all that time you were also taking lithium at the same time? So the lithium basically curbed the intensity of the highs and the lows. However, what was happening is you still were too depressed, and so you turned to pot and you had these experiences. And now that you ended up associating some of your challenges, it sounds like, to the pot, and so you decided to quit that cold turkey. Okay?
It made a lot of sense to me at the time.
But that also triggered a very deep depression.
Correct.
Okay, what happened after that?
After that, my relationship with my ex-wife at this point went completely sour. Even though she knew from the beginning of the relationship that I was bipolar, she never learned anything about it, and the respect in the relationship was completely gone. And I kept on going in and out for a while, and I went from job to job, challenging job to challenging job, until I finally got to the point where I felt like I needed to leave that relationship to find some peace for my life. After I did that, I decided to do something that I thought that I could do a long time ago, and that was to run a business. I purchased a franchise of a UCD store. Unfortunately, I found out that franchises aren't always the best thing to get into. The thing went sour on me, and shortly after that, during that period of time, I got another job as an assistant controller, and I got involved in an HMO. HMOs are very difficult to deal with when you are dealing with mental illness. That's what I found out.
Okay, and you actually found that out from the inside by working instead of just being a consumer. Tell us more about that.
Okay, well, I was given a primary doctor and I was given a psychiatrist. You're not, you don't get to choose who you get along with, who's going to be right for you, and that is so important in dealing with these illnesses because how you feel is just so important. And
We've heard that time and time again, that finding the right doctor, because it doesn't work with just being assigned a doctor, does it?
Not at all. And this doctor was even worse for me because I had a hard time getting a hold of him for me to get my medication.
Wow.
So I had to turn to my primary doctor for him to give me medication. And after a year's time going through some physical ailments, I found myself at my psychiatrist. Your lithium level is supposed to be at 1.0. That's the perfect spot for a lithium level. I went in for a lithium level check and I was at 1.8. And the doctor said, "Oh, this is just an anomaly. You'll be fine." 2 weeks later, no, I'd say 2 months later, I could hardly walk anymore. I was vomiting. I couldn't see straight anymore. I couldn't write. I had a lithium level of 3.3.
Wow.
I had a lithium overdose, and I was admitted to the hospital on a heart monitor for 3-4 days. Luckily, I had help from the support group that I was with, DBSA at the time. The 2 people from DBSA came in. My family was kind of like, "Oh, he's just acting. He's not, this isn't real, what he's going through right now." And these people from DBSA, they came into the house for 2 weeks and cleaned the house and cooked for me while I was going through the recovery. After this lithium overdose, the doctor took me completely off my medications cold turkey. At the time, I thought, okay, this guy's trying to protect himself. He's thinking maybe there's a lawsuit coming. I didn't know, but all I knew is that I hadn't slept for 3 weeks straight after that.
Wow.
Then I was admitted. I went into my primary doctor and I said, "Hey, you've got to do something for me." Well, he put me back on an antidepressant. Being on an antidepressant without a mood stabilizer, I went zooming into a manic episode.
Wow.
And that precipitated another hospitalization. And after that, it set me basically on the course that I'm on right now. It's amazing how, I don't look back at my life and say, okay, this has gone bad and this has gone bad. I wish I could have changed this, or I wish I could have changed that. Everything that's happened to me, I've learned from it. I've taken the best of it out of everything. The glass is half full. This is what makes me who I am today. It's set me on a course to be on the medications that I am right now. I started out after that lithium overdose just doing a part-time job just to get my life back together again. And because I couldn't sleep, and I realized I couldn't sleep because I wasn't tired. So, you can spend so much time just thinking about killing yourself or thinking about how terrible things are and going over and over and writing things down, and until you finally realize you have to continue on with your life. I got this part-time job, and I ended up walking into the place where I work right now after that, looking for a full-time job, and I found what I really love to do, and that's working with the public.
Wow.
We're quickly out of time, but David, I was going to ask you to summarize things, but you just did, and you did it just beautifully there in terms of keeping an optimistic attitude, being patient, finding the right doctors. You said the medication, understanding that medication can work to a degree, but it's not the end-all, be-all. And we just have about a minute left. Is there something else you'd like to say to our listening audience, David?
Okay. Involved with the treatment also is finding somebody that you can talk to. Unfortunately, this doctor that put me on the lithium, I got into a dependent relationship with him, where I would go in and he would tell me what to do, and that's not the kind of a relationship you want with your psychologist. You want somebody that will feed you back what it is that you've said, so that you can learn how to handle your own problems. That is so important. And it took me 17 years with that psychiatrist to finally come to that realization.
David Samuelson, thank you so much for visiting with us. Thank you so much for sharing with us today. And that's the Suicide Prevention Show here on 1360 WLBK.